Good evening. Welcome to the Costa Mesa Planning Commission meeting for Monday, April 25th, 2022. I call the meeting to order and ask Commissioner Rojas to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Commissioner Rojas. Anna, roll call, please.
Chair D'Erico.
Here.
Vice Chair Zick.
Here.
Commissioner Rojas.
Here.
Commissioner Toller.
Here.
Commissioner Russell. Commissioner Vivar.
Here.
Commissioner Arith.
Present. Okay, some housekeeping quickly. I'm going to see if we can quickly reorder the agenda. We'll get to announcements and public comment and everything. Mr. Drapkin, could you share with us what's going on with public hearing item number 2? I understand there's a request for continuance.
Yes, for the Harbor Court proposal.
Yes.
Or the court proposal, not the Harbor Court proposal. But they had requested a continuance to the May 23rd hearing. They couldn't be present tonight. And they might have some questions for staff as well in the intermediary.
So do we have a date certain for May 9th on that?
May 23rd.
May
they've
23rd?
requested. Yes.
Okay, so Anna, I'm going to have you go ahead and read public hearing item number 2 into the record, and then I'm just going to motion that we continue that to the 23rd.
Public hearing item number 2. Planning application 22-10, request for a conditional use permit to allow for a public courthouse at 3390 Harbor Boulevard. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission continue this item to the Planning Commission meeting of May 23rd, 2022. Please note that we have not received any public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you, Anna. The chair is going to move that we continue this item to the meeting of May 23rd, 2022. Is there a second? Seconded by, so I'm going to make the motion. Seconded by Vice Chair Zick. Any comment on the motion? Okay, please roll call. Oh, wait, it's electronic vote. I'm so used to the masks and all that stuff and Zoom. So go ahead and vote. Sorry about that.
That motion carries 6-0 with Commissioner Russell absent.
Okay, so we'll go back to the agenda, and we have no announcements or presentations tonight. This brings us to public comment. This is the portion of the meeting where members of the public can address the Planning Commission on items within our purview, but not on tonight's agenda. So is there anyone in the audience tonight wishing to speak for public comment? Okay, seeing none. Anna, anybody on telephone or Zoom?
No, there is not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll close public comment. Brings us to commissioner comments, and we'll begin tonight with Commissioner Rojas.
I have no comments, Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Arith.
No comments this evening, Chair.
Okay, and Vice Chair, I promoted you. Commissioner Toller.
I have just a couple of comments.
Sure.
Wish everybody a happy Earth Day. On Friday, which was Earth Day, in front of City Hall, the city put on a really cool, albeit windy, Earth Day celebration. There was an active transportation village where the Active Transportation Committee, who's doing excellent work, was there, and a lot of booths featuring lots of cool stuff. So it was a really cool event. Good job to all staff that participated in that. Also on Saturday and Sunday, Councilmember Reynolds had a walk on Saturday and a ride on Sunday. And once again, I encourage anybody that can or wants to. It's the 4th Sunday of every month in the afternoon. There's always a different route. It was a great ride. It was over 10 miles. I took my 9-year-old boy, and we were separated most of the time, but I felt comfortable because he was in there's safety in numbers, right? And it was a comfortable environment. It's a good way to explore the city on 2 wheels. You really get a different perspective. And I've been on so many of these, but every time I come away surprised at how quickly I just shot across from one side of the town to the next and how easy it was. Because a lot of times, mentally, we think, oh, it's too far, it's too difficult. And distance really isn't an issue. Hills and wind really aren't an issue. And when you go, you're able to ride in a group environment like that, you're not having to think about where you're going or how you're getting there. You could just focus on the journey. And anyway, it was a great ride. I encourage anybody who wants to participate those in the future. Fourth Sunday of every month. If you follow the city's Instagram, you'll be alerted to that. Those are all my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Vivar.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I too was at the Earth Day Festival last week on Friday. As I understand, it's the first Earth Day festival the city does, and it's pretty exciting to be able to take part in that, manning the active transportation booth, handing out bike lights and such to people, and promoting biking and walking in the city. What else? The community walk as well. So I did that on Saturday as well. It was great to be able to do that. And every time I go on the walk, I feel like I discover more things about the city that I didn't know. So similar to what Commissioner Toller said, it's great to be able to walk through the community. And on the walk, we discovered a new entrance, or at least new to me, into Canyon Park. So that was really interesting. And last week on Monday, so exactly a week ago, I was at Costa Mesa High School and Middle School with one of my colleagues from the Active Transportation Committee, giving a couple presentations to the AVID classes at Costa Mesa High and Costa Mesa Middle School to the students, and just kind of giving them an introduction to civic engagement and what it means to be involved with decision making in the local level, especially city and maybe even school district meetings, if they would be interested in just teaching them how it all works, and hopefully getting a few young people plugged into the community meetings and decision-making processes that we hold that sometimes are empty like this. But yeah, so great to be able to do that. And thank you to everybody who watches these videos as well on YouTube or Zoom or anything else. So thank you for the community, to the community for following along our meetings. And that's all for me, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chair Zick?
No comments tonight.
Okay, I have no comments either. So that will bring us to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine, will be acted upon in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the Planning Commission staff or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for discussion. The public can make this request via email and should include the item number to be addressed. Items removed from the consent calendar will be discussed and voted upon immediately following Planning Commission action on the remainder of the consent calendar. We have one item on the consent calendar tonight. Commissioners, is there anyone wishing to pull that for separate discussion? Okay, anyone from the public wishing to pull that item? Anyone out in the virtual world?
No, there's not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there a motion for the consent calendar? Please hit your make motion button. A motion by Commissioner Vivar to approve the consent calendar? Is there a second? Okay, the chair will second the motion, if the button works. So Commissioner Vivar has moved to approve the consent calendar. The chair seconds. Any comments? Okay, please cast your vote.
That motion carries 6-0 with Commissioner Russell absent.
Okay, you're off the hook, Mr. Yeager. Okay, that brings us to public hearings. Anna, public hearing item number 1, please.
Public hearing item number 1, planning application 21-12 for a cannabis manufacturing, distribution, and non-storefront retail facility, Direct 4, at 3595 Cadillac Avenue, Unit 102. Please note we have received 2 public comments on this item that have been provided to the commission and made part of the record. This is a call for any ex parte communications.
Commissioner Rojas, any communications to report?
No, sir.
Commissioner Toller?
Nope.
Vice Chair Zick?
Only a discussion I had with staff after last meeting.
Okay. Commissioner Arith?
No.
Commissioner Vivar?
None whatsoever.
I have none. So we will then move to Mr. Arios.
Yes, good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Justin Arios, Associate Planner. As Anna described, Planning Application 2112 is a request for a conditional use permit to establish a manufacturing, distribution, and non-storefront retail cannabis use, direct number 4. As a bit of background related to cannabis in the city, in November 2016, voters approved Measure X, which allowed the City Council to establish regulations for medical cannabis uses in the green zone, including manufacturing, packaging, distribution, research and development labs, and testing labs. In November 2018, non-medical adult use cannabis became legal in California under Proposition 64. In November 2020, voters approved Measure Q, which allowed the City Council to establish regulations for cannabis retail businesses. And in June 2021, the City Council adopted 2 ordinances to amend the municipal code to regulate retail cannabis and retail cannabis storefronts and non-storefront uses. The flow chart on this slide outlines the general permitting process for cannabis businesses, beginning with the cannabis business permit application through the issuance of a business license. As part of the cannabis business permit process, the applicant provided a detailed business plan that was evaluated by the city's cannabis consultant. The business plan described the owner's background, proof of capitalization, startup budget, a 3-year pro forma, target customers, and day-to-day operations. The business plan contains proprietary details and is not included as an attachment to the staff report. In addition, the applicant provided a professionally prepared security plan. The city's cannabis consultant also reviewed the proposed security plan and determined that appropriate security measures were included to address the city's requirements and state law. A note about state licensing: all cannabis uses in the city of Costa Mesa are required to conform with state regulations for cannabis control. Regarding this application, the application was originally scheduled to be heard by the Planning Commission at its April 11th meeting. 2 public comments were received with concerns related to air quality and odors. As a result, the applicant requested the item be continued to this meeting. Subsequent to the item being continued, staff reached out to the commenter to gather additional information and regulations. Furthermore, staff reached out to the Department of Cannabis Control, DCC, as well as the South Coast Air Quality Management District, also known as South Coast AQMD, to gather additional information and applicable requirements regarding air quality and odor control. Staff was provided a 2013 FDA Current Good Manufacturing Practices Guidance for Industry document, which in summary is a guidance that represents the FDA's current thinking on the topic. The Department of Cannabis Control directed staff to reach out to the local air district, which is South Coast AQMD, and the South Coast AQMD intends to draft requirements for control of odors from cannabis processing. The subject property is located at 3595 Cadillac Avenue, Unit 102. It is located on a approximately 1-acre site located west of Cadillac Avenue and north of Scenic Avenue within the city's green zone. Existing development on the site consists of an 18,431 square foot multi-tenant industrial building with existing landscaping, trash enclosure, and a 38-stall surface parking lot, with parking located both outside and within a gated area. Cannabis operators also occupy the adjacent tenant spaces on the site, Unit 101 and 103, both of which are approved for manufacturing and distribution operations. The subject property is zoned MP Industrial Park and is surrounded by other industrial park zoning designation properties. The application before you this evening is for Direct Number 4, a cannabis manufacturing and distribution facility with a non-storefront retail component in Unit 102. Unit 102 is a 5,940 square foot tenant space located within the existing industrial building. The use would be obtaining state licenses, including a Type 6 for non-volatile manufacturer, Type 9 for non-storefront retailer, and Type 11 for distribution licenses. The applicant's business plan and security plan were successfully evaluated by the city's cannabis consultant, and the owner passed the required background check. Here are some site photos taken from Cadillac Avenue. And this slide provides a site plan for the project site. As previously mentioned, the existing site contains an 18,431 square foot multi-tenant building with 38 parking stalls on the surface parking lot. In addition, Unit 102 has 2 roll-up doors for vehicle access and additional parking for delivery vehicles. Unit 102 features an existing warehouse with 2 roll-up doors for vehicle parking, loading and unloading. In addition, the proposed floor plan includes a lobby, secure check-in and administrative area, transportation, staging rooms, packaging and labeling rooms, storage rooms, offices, including a dispatch, call center, and fulfillment rooms, bathrooms, and surface parking and indoor parking. As it relates to the manufacturing and distribution use, the use would receive bulk shipments, including cannabis flower, extract oils, and miscellaneous containers for cannabis product. Manufacturing operations are limited to cartridge filling, pre-roll filling, edible gummy production, and product packaging. Cannabis flower would be utilized for the production of pre-rolls, and oils would be used for vape cartridges and tinctures, or oils would be infused to create the gummy solution. No volatile extraction is conducted at this facility. As described in the staff report and following the continuance from the April 11th meeting, the applicant provided additional information regarding air quality and odor control for the proposed project. The air quality control system proposed includes activated carbon, HEPA filtration ground units, odor absorption bags in delivery and distribution vehicles, as well as smell-proof containers. As it relates to the non-storefront retail portion of the business, orders would be placed via telephone or a secured online portal with customers required to be registered in order to place an order. The registration process includes age verification and uploading an acceptable government-issued identification card. When orders are received, the dispatcher will group the prepackaged products in an unmarked package with a secure storage within the secured storage area, and at the appropriate time, a batch of orders would be moved to the delivery vehicle's storage receptacle, and deliveries in similar geographic areas would be batched together. The next couple of slides will provide some examples of conditions of approval that are recommended in the draft resolution and that are applicable to cannabis-related projects. This slide provides examples of general conditions of approval, including the approval being able to be revoked, the cannabis business permit being needed to be renewed every 2 years, and updating and or modifying the cannabis business permit with any changes to the operation. This slide provides examples of the state-related conditions of approval, including obtaining required permits prior to any operation, third-party delivery services, employee age requirements, and suspension of state licenses in relation to city approvals. Conditions of approval that are required to be completed prior to the issuance of building permits include plans being prepared by a California licensed architect or engineer, submittal of an odor control plan, including equipment specification sheets as part of the plan check submittal, screening for any proposed mechanical equipment, and compliance with building, fire, and other applicable codes. Prior to the issuance of the cannabis business permit, some of the items that would need to be concluded include providing a matrix demonstrating compliance with conditions of approval, a requirement requiring a final planning inspection, providing vehicle details, and a requirement for a $2 million liability insurance. Finally, related to conditions of approval conditions of approval have been included that are related to the ongoing operation of the use, including a background check and issuance of ID badges for all employees, vehicle loading and unloading required to be done under roof or within camera view, no cannabis products or cannabis graphics being visible from the exterior, and a requirement for maintaining air quality and odor control devices. Required findings for a conditional use permit application include finding that the proposed use is substantially compatible with developments in the same general area, finding that the proposed use will not be materially detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public or to improvements within the immediate neighborhood, and not allowing a use, density, or intensity that is not in accordance with the general plan. Based on the analysis and findings in the staff report and resolution, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, per CEQA guidelines section 15301, class 1 for existing facilities, and approve planning application 2112, subject to conditions of approval. That concludes my presentation. The applicant is also here with a brief presentation, and staff is also available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions of staff? Commissioner Rojas?
In regards to the actual report itself, I did have one.
Yeah, just on the staff report if you need any.
No, no.
Okay, Commissioner Toller. Okay, Commissioner Arith. Commissioner Vivar. There you go.
Whoops. All right. A couple quick questions. Thanks for the presentation, but yeah, just a couple quick questions. So regarding the South Coast Air Quality Management District guidelines on odor control, would the city just follow whatever guidelines they have, or would we have our own guidelines? And who would be responsible for checking odor? Would that be the city or county, or this South Coast Air Quality Management District?
So generally, when there is an odor complaint, it would probably go through our code enforcement department. Sometimes it would go directly to the AQMD, depending on the nature of the complaint and how the complaint sort of goes forward. In this situation, it would, like I said, it would depend on how the complaint was, who it was provided to.
Okay.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, there is a condition that talks about it and basically suggests that it will be responded to.
Sure. And then regarding their proposed filtration, because I know that obviously there was a review done of the public comments that were received regarding odor and air quality, and the applicant is proposing to use a basically what sounds like a medical grade filtration system, which sounds great. But would the city check? How would the city check that that's actually being implemented? Since it sounds like it's just like a sort of like a system that's purchased and just like moved around the facility as it's needed.
So in this situation, the applicant is actually proposing a redundant filtration system where it includes the out-ground filters and then also a permanent filtration system that meets pretty high quality requirements with regards to the MERV standards. So, and it's a carbon filter, and then it's all the rooms are generally vacuumed to some extent to where the air is forced into these filters before it escapes. And there's also a condition that requires that the applicant will submit a plan that the city will also review.
Okay. And last question. So I'm not entirely familiar with these different sort of manufacturing processes. So would there be any waste that we expect to be generated, and would that be disposed of through just like the water sort of sewer system or some other way, just driven off-site or something like that?
Commissioner Vivar, this is Nancy Wynn, Senior Planner. I can help answer that question. There is a condition of approval that requires that any waste generated as part of any manufacturing process, that it be disposed of properly by a company that is specifically handles chemical waste.
Okay.
And it does have to, prior to the waste hauler or chemical waste hauler coming in, the waste does have to be rendered unrecognizable and unusable.
Recognizable and usable?
Unrecognizable and unusable.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Apologize, I might.
Yeah, no problem. Great. And so yeah, something near the end as well mentions about opportunities for community employment. Does the city track that at all? Like how many Costa Mesa residents would be employed by any particular business? And I'm guessing that goes not just for this business, but any new business that opens up in the city?
Not sure about any new business in the city, but specific for any cannabis business, they would need to go through the live scan background check. So we would have that record of those employees.
Okay. Okay, great. All right, thank you. I think that's it, Mr. Chairman, for me.
Okay, Vice Chair Zick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may have a question for the applicant, but I wanted to let Mr. Arias know, staff know that this report was so complete, and your presentation, in particular the air quality control and odor control section, that I really don't have any questions for you. So thank you for a good job.
Okay, so I do want to spend a little bit of time addressing the communications from the adjacent use and ask staff a couple of questions, which is, well, one, are there any businesses with extraction licenses that are either volatile or non-volatile near this applicant's site and near Pyramid Laboratories? If you know, how close are they?
So I know for sure that within this building, there is an approval for volatile extraction. I do not know if they are fully built out as of yet, but I know that there is an approval for a type 7 in unit 103.
Okay.
And I believe on, I want to say the other side of that cul-de-sac, I believe there's a manufacturing. I'm not 100% sure what type it is.
Okay. So, and did we receive any communications from Pyramid for those applications?
No.
Okay. And then I want to touch on this this outreach you guys did to AQMD. Apparently they have this, we're thinking about some Rule 425, where they're going to come up with guidelines for cannabis manufacturing relative to air quality. Did they give you any kind of timeline that they're thinking about on that? Okay. I mean, it's not fair to hold an applicant to a potential future rule.
And I know it's been on their kind of calendar of to-dos for at least a year or so.
Okay,
It
okay.
hasn't really been given a tentative
Okay.
date of when it would be discussed.
All right. Would it be safe to say that whatever rule they came up with that affected future manufacturers that might come to Costa Mesa, that rule would apply to them when they come forward, if it's in effect?
I would assume so, yes.
Okay. Okay, that's, I think, all I had. So what I will do is open the public hearing and ask the applicant to come forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record and let us know who you are, and then you may make your presentation, and then we'll have questions for you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Sean Maddox. I'm an attorney and general compliance consultant for the cannabis industry. I also represent Direct Number 4 on this CUP application, helped them write the application, dealt with the correspondence with the planners throughout the process, including Mr. Arios. Thank you, Mr. Arios, for the very thorough report you did, and for the nagging on the odor control plan and all of that over the past couple of weeks, but I think it was well warranted, and we appreciate the concern that's been brought by the neighbor, and have every intention of complying with the odor control plan that's been forwarded in order to mitigate that.
And Mr. Maddox, can I ask you that if you've read the conditions of approval and you agree with them?
We do.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Or I do. So with respect, I prepared a couple slides. Do I just call those up, or? Okay.
Staff's got it for you.
I'll try to be quick. So Direct Number 4 is a premier Southern California delivery brand. They were founded in 2000. They've got operations currently in Los Angeles. Within the next 12 months, they've got plans for another 2 Los Angeles locations, a location in Stanton, as well as one in Corona. They're a delivery-only retailer. It's what they focus on. The ancillary manufacturing distribution considered in Costa Mesa is really just to support those other delivery services throughout Southern California. The Costa Mesa operation specifically, as mentioned earlier, delivery, distribution, manufacturing, and we also plan on using this as somewhat of a hub for the Southern California operations. So additional staff members will be here that we wouldn't have at some of the other locations to support, just general call input and things like that. Next slide. This is a unit, you guys saw it earlier in Justin's presentation. It's pretty straightforward. There's 3 uses in it, which makes it a little bit interesting, and given that Costa Mesa doesn't have micro businesses, creates some interesting limited access area restrictions, but the way it's been planned and designed, all of the licenses have separate areas, and then there's some shared areas that are approved under the state's regulations. There's 2 transportation and staging areas in the back, which will allow for secure delivery and loading of cars. Next slide. The leadership team of Direct Number 4, just worth mentioning and calling attention to, about 20 years of aggregate experience across the leadership team. Their CFO is the CFO of a well-known vet CBD brand, has also been responsible for raising over $170 million in cannabis investments. Their marketing director is a former head of marketing at Ease, which is one of the largest delivery platforms in the state and nation. Their chief technology officer is the former chief technology of Weed Maps, which is probably the largest, advertiser in this space. Co-founder is an Orange County resident. She lives in Irvine and runs a real estate brokerage. I myself will be serving as the compliance advisor and the attorney for Direct. Next slide. Just quickly to reiterate on the air quality odor control, I think it's very well put out in the report, but the project contemplates industry best practices. Those include carbon filtration in negative pressurized space. I think I heard somebody say vacuum earlier. It's very much like a vacuum sealed space, so air can only exit through the exhausts. All the air going out of the exhaust systems are filtered through those carbon filters. MERV 8 was mentioned. MERV stands for maximum efficiency reporting value. There's a large scale of MERV filters. MERV 6 is pretty much a cannabis industry standard, so we are proposing MERV 8, which is above industry standards. In addition to that, procedural safeguards for air quality and odor control include staff training, maintenance procedures, record keeping, and complaint response. additional measures which have been discussed are the redundancy of the HEPA filtration ground units, which will be present in any room that has cannabis or cannabis-producing odors, as well as generally like an air purifying flora, just used for office decoration, but it's a nice added touch, and it does provide some air purification benefits, nominal compared to what's being done through the floor units, as well as the negative pressurized carbon filters. And that's it on my end. I assume there's probably some questions, so happy to make myself available.
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Vivar, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, thank you for your presentation and for touching on the air quality filtration aspect of your project as well. I am wondering, so the floor area is supposed to include a distribution and delivery, so the transportation staging area, would that be in the delivery or the distribution part of that?
There's 2 transportation staging areas, so one for each. And then the exterior of the building has gated parking, which could also be used for essentially loading delivery vehicles. No incoming or outgoing distribution would be loaded anywhere outside of one of those indoors because of the amount of product that would be in place with the distribution.
And then so in terms of the indoor space, do you know how big your fleet is supposed to be, and do they all have room then for, I'm guessing, to be stored inside of the facility?
There would be room for 1 delivery vehicle and 1 distribution vehicle inside the facility. The remainder of the fleet would be parkable in the back parking, which is the gated parking.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the employees would park there as well, right, which would be secure?
Yes.
Okay. And then regarding the so cooking of the gummies, so I'm guessing that releases some kind of a vapor. So would that have like a hood for that vapor, or would that just waft into the air and be filtered out by the carbon filtration system?
Either. I think that the applicant is proposing a hood just because it's a more direct ventilation, but that hood would really just be hooked into the exhaust of the HVAC anyway. So it would be an extra fan that fed into the exhaust system of the odor control system.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think those are all my questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Rojas, any questions to the applicant? Commissioner Tuller? Commissioner Arrett? Vice Chair Zick?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions, Mr. Maddox. Start with the easier one, in my mind anyway. In terms of the edible gummy production, are there any, because it's an edible product, are there any special production protocols or FDA process approvals that are required as part of that?
Interestingly enough, those have not been input on cannabis yet, at least in California. The California Department of Public Health has its own subset of regulations, but those are included as part of the Medical Adult Use Cannabis Regulation and Safety Act. So there are some general guidelines. I know that the applicant, has their own current good manufacturing practices that they intend to impose. I assume the lack of federal regulation over the process is because of the fact that it remains federally illegal. One of the reasons gummy is the chosen edible here is because of, I guess, the lack of air involved. You've got really 3 or 4 simple ingredients. You don't have shelf space issues. You don't have dairy issues and things, spoilage. So, with something like a gummy, very easy to manufacture, very easy to make, very easy to maintain quality control over.
Okay, thank you. And then with your Type 6 license, you don't indicate that you're doing any extraction. Does Type 6 allow you to do extraction, even though that's not your intention?
It does not. So the state, it does if you tell the state you're going to, right? So when you apply at the state level, the state asks you for what activities you're going to do and what products you're going to be developing on site. If you mention that you're doing any type of extraction, what they do is they require you to provide a closed loop certification from a certified engineer as to the equipment that's being installed when it's been installed. So unless you provide that to the state, it does not permit you to do any extraction on site.
Okay.
And in all honesty, I think this will probably end up being, I think it's a type N infusion license as opposed to an extraction license, which is a subset of manufacturing licenses. Because if the state doesn't see any contemplated extraction, a lot of times they'll bump it down to a type N. We had that happen on another Measure X client on Cadillac where it was proposed as extraction. There was no extraction happening. They bumped it down. If it were proposed to go up, we'd have to do what I told you earlier in terms of providing that certification. We'd also, per the conditions of approval, have to go through the city and make sure that that was approved.
So if somebody said they had a type 6 license, that does not mean automatically that they can be doing extraction, if I'm
Correct.
understanding you correctly.
Correct.
Okay. And then you indicated that MERV 6 is the industry standard. So tell me what led you to choose MERV 8, and maybe even more specifically, why MERV 8 and not MERV 13?
The reason it's not MERV 13 is because we're not a scientific lab or a hospital, and they are expensive, right? And so the intent is to cycle through these things regularly and not to extend them through their value, which is sometimes 6 to 12 months. MERV 8 covers just about anything that you would be worried about in a cannabis facility, up to and including bacteria, which again, with what's going on here, wouldn't be contemplated, but that was one of the concerns of the neighbors. So, MERV 8's just a nice way of saying we're going to go above industry standards, but we're not holding ourselves to hospital or scientific lab standards of MERV 13.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Maddox. I have no questions, so I will open public comment portion of the public hearing. There are no members in the chambers tonight, so there's no public comment from the chambers. Anyone online? Anna?
No, there's not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we'll close the public comment portion of the hearing. Thank you very much, Mr. Maddox. Unless you have any final thoughts or there's any final questions of the applicant, commissioners?
No, I just want to say thanks for having me. I do have a few Measure Q clients that I'll be representing in the coming months. I appreciate what the city's done and what they're trying to do with the cannabis industry. I think it's a step forward, especially in a conservative area like Orange County. I'm born and raised Orange County local, so I'm hopeful that the city kind of shows how this can be stewarded correctly and opens up the marketplace in a safe way. So thanks for having me tonight, and hopefully look forward to seeing you guys again.
Thank you, sir. I'll close the public hearing. The chair's going to move that we find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, per CEQA guidelines section 15301, class 1, existing facilities, and approve planning application 21-12, subject to the findings in Exhibit A and the conditions of approval in Exhibit B. Is there a second? Commissioner Vivar, the chair made the motion, and I've got a second from Commissioner Toller. Any comments on the motion? Commissioner Toller.
No, I don't have any comments.
Okay, Commissioner Vivar.
No comments.
Vice Chair Zick. Okay, so I have just a brief comment. I again want to acknowledge the communication from the adjacent neighbor. And while I appreciate, I think they were sincere, it didn't have any, didn't move me in any way really for a couple of reasons. One, Measure Q has been around for a while, and or Measure X has been around for a while, and when it was being debated in the public and the types of uses that may go in there because of Measure X, nobody seemed to object. Two, we already have, or we have at least one approved extraction business in the same building, and there was no objection there. Three, I think the applicant is, as he's mentioned, it is kind of going above and beyond the industry standard on filtration, and noted in Pyramid Laboratories communications that they also have a very robust filtration system for keeping things out. And ironically, it occurs to me that it's not very far from a freeway that's belching tons of NOx and carbon monoxide into the air every day, and it doesn't seem to be affecting their business. So that really didn't have any sway with me. So, but I appreciate the communication. I understand the concern. So with that, we'll call for the question on the motion. And we're a little hung up here, so what I will ask is read the votes that you have, Anna, and then ask, oh wait, there we go. Do we have everybody's vote?
Vivar's vote.
Okay, so let's do this. Why don't you read the votes you have on the board, and then we'll ask Commissioner Vivar for his voice vote.
I have 5-0 at the moment.
Okay, and Commissioner Vivar, your voice vote?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
That motion carries 6-0 with Commissioner Russell absent.
excellent. Okay, thank you very much. That decision is final within 7 days unless appealed to the City Council. Mr. Maddox, good luck to you in direct. Okay. That dispenses with the public hearing items tonight. We have no old business, we have no new business, so we'll go to departmental reports. Public Services Report. Mr. Yang.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and honorable members of the Planning Commission, good evening. So the Public Services Department would like to announce 2 upcoming events. Number 1, the first one is the Pedestrian Master Plan Community Meeting and Workshop scheduled for this Wednesday, April 27th at 6 p.m. This virtual community meeting is to review the draft pedestrian master plan developed with the participation of the Active Transportation Committee and community members. The draft plan is ready for the community to review, and the plan proposes pedestrian improvements to connect communities to schools, parks, businesses, and other key destinations. This meeting will be conducted through Zoom teleconference only. For those who would like to participate, please log on to the city's website at www.costamesa.gov and scroll down to the bottom of the webpage for instructions to log in. Once again, the date is Wednesday, April 27th at 6 p.m. via Zoom only. The second announcement is the fiscal year 2022-23 Capital Improvement Program, or CIP budget, which will be presented and discussed at tomorrow's City Council study session tomorrow on Tuesday, April 26th at 5 p.m. During this study session, staff will present the fiscal year 22-23 CIP budget and showcase the accomplishments from the previous fiscal year and to reveal the proposed projects for the upcoming fiscal year. The public is welcome to participate either via Zoom teleconference or in person here at the City Council chambers. Please log on to the city's website, once again at www.costamesaca.gov, and scroll down to the bottom of the webpage for instructions to log in for those who want to participate through Zoom. Once again, the date is tomorrow, Tuesday, April 26th at 5 p.m. That concludes the Public Services Report, and I defer back to the Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yang. A quick question of Ms. Lee or Mr. Dravkin, and I can't remember. I remember when I was on the Parks Commission, we got to look at that CIP from the, does the Planning Commission have a look at that, and are we going to have that on our agenda at some point?
Yes, the capital improvement program will come to the commission next month, as usual, for a general plan conformity finding.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Development Services Report then, so keep going.
Thank you. I have no other report this evening, Chair.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. City Attorney Report.
No report, Chair.
All right, then we'll stand in adjournment till our regularly scheduled meeting of May 9th, 2022. Good night.